Last night, I introduced you to a family that had been separated because of the stupidity of the bureaucracy and the politics of Anastasia Palaszczuk when it comes to borders. Harvey was a little boy who was born on Friday and developed breathing problems in Lismore Base Hospital. He was sent to the nearest neonatal intensive care unit, or NICU, and that was at the Royal Brisbane Women's Hospital, because he had breathing difficulties that could have ended up taking his life. Because of the stupidity of the bureaucracy, because of the politics of the Queensland government, Harvey's mum, Chantel, and dad, Glenn, were not allowed to cross the border from northern New South Wales to be by their son's bedside. The stakes couldn't have been higher. His life was on the line. They should have been there with him from the moment that he crossed the border, and if they couldn't get there via the helicopter because apparently there wasn't enough room, they should have been escorted to be by his bedside within a couple of hours. But alas, despite the fact that this issue has been in the public realm since Sunday night, and we spoke about it last night, they've not been allowed to cross the Queensland border. Very few issues have produced the passion that you sent our way via paul@skynews.com.au in the past 24 hours. Just a taste. Including Desmond, who says that it was disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful, that an issue like this could not be dealt with appropriately and that a mother's attendance facilitated. Linda said that it's disgusting. What's happened to this family and what's happened to this country? Kate said that it's heartbreaking and disgraceful. Parents cannot cross borders to be with a seriously ill newborn, yet Australia is about to admit a plane load of international students. Cheryl said that the lunatics are well and truly taken over the asylum that was once Australia. And Annalise says they're very harrowing for the family. Logic with exemptions should be paramount with situations like this. Well, I'm pleased to say that there is some good news here. And the good news has nothing to do with the Queensland government, has nothing to do with the facilitating of mum and dad being able to be at Harvey's bedside. I'm pleased to say that Harvey is now out of intensive care and has been flown back to northern New South Wales. This is an image of Harvey with his mum, where he should be, where he always should have been. And Glenn has given us this statement to read on the behalf of his family, where he wants to thank every single nurse and midwife that has helped our son at his most vulnerable stage of life. Our little man wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the hard work and care of these lovely ladies at Lismore Base Hospital and the Royal Brisbane Women's Hospital have given him. I would like to thank everyone for the love and support that they have shown us in the worst time of our lives. I hope that our story will make sure that nothing like this will happen to anyone ever again. It was appalling that they would do such a thing to such a defenceless little human and a really vulnerable young mother. He says of our echoing of this situation that he appreciates that we took the time to support his family and show the world that he's now back in his mother's arms tonight after 4 long days of stress, worry and sadness, leaving a mother crying in her room all day, feeling depressed on her birthday, while her baby boy was more than 150 kilometres away by himself without any family member. Glenn goes on to say that he'd like to make this statement that he will be making no further public comments, as it's all too much for Chantel and I would like to spend time with our 2 sons. So put simply, this is the end of it in terms of the media, and he thanks everyone who has asked their questions. Thank you for this opportunity to speak, and he appreciates it. Glenn, it's the least that we could do. So thankfully, this little boy is back in his mother's arms, something that anyone who goes into a neonatal intensive care unit, a NICU, desperately hopes. This little man is now on his journey towards what will be, we hope, a great life. He's certainly got a mum and dad that were willing to fight for him from day one, just as they do his older brother. Harvey, we'll keep our eye on you, mate, and we're here for you anytime you need us. And Glenn says that this is a situation that he hopes doesn't get repeated. But I'm sad to say that we are about to show you a whole bunch of other cases of people who desperately need serious medical attention, including kids, and they are being denied that attention because there are state governments that are saying, no, you can't cross the border because you come from the bad part of Australia. Here's just a few examples that I can tell you about tonight. Parker is a 7-year-old boy. Parker lives in Murrayvale. It's part of the Mildura local council area that has 55,515 people living in it, but one active case. Yet the South Australian government says, no, you're not allowed to come across the border to get ongoing heart treatment. Josie is a 3.5-year-old little girl who lives also in Murrayvale. Again, a local government area of 55,515 people, but one active coronavirus case means South Australian authorities have said that she is not allowed to travel to Adelaide because of coronavirus to deal with the tumours at the base of her spine. John is a 71-year-old man who lives in Lilymure. He lives in the West Wimmera council area and they have 2 coronavirus cases for 54,645 people who live there. He needs ongoing help for cancer treatment. Then there's the story of Mabel. This was a story you may have read about in the Weekend Australian and it moved the Prime Minister. She's 2. She also lives as part of the West Wimmera local government area where 2 active cases in 54,645 people are there, and she has had braces because of problems with her hips since she was born. The Prime Minister was able to pick up the phone after reading it in the paper and getting a letter from Mabel's mum. She is now able to travel to South Australia. But the Prime Minister, I know for a fact, has had enough of this, and he's had enough of the system where people can hide behind the bureaucracy. I understand that he has written a letter to the state premiers and that this will be top of the agenda for National Cabinet when it meets on Friday. In it, the suggestion that he has made to the states is a suggestion that people like all of those that I have just shown you won't have to go through the normal application process. Instead, the former Chief Health Officer and now Secretary of the Commonwealth Department of Health is going to put together a thing called the National Incident Room, which is apparently going to mean that there will be someone from the federal government and someone in a decision-making position at state government that will be able to review these things and review them as fast as possible. That system hopefully gets signed off on Friday. This is a big win. It is no thanks to the authorities in Queensland that Harvey is back in his mother's arms. His mother and father should have been able to be with him through the whole thing. Thankfully, due to the health workers who were taking care of him in the NICU, yes, he is back in his mother's arms. But as I asked you last night, how have we become the country where newborn babies are separated from their mothers in their first hours of life because supposedly they come from hotspots of 2 cases or 1 case, where 3-year-olds, where 7-year-olds, where 71-year-olds are all denied the very treatment that will save their life. We're not talking about cosmetic surgery. We are not talking about elective surgery. We are not talking about the things that are superfluous. These are people who live in border areas who deserve the chance to get the same medical treatment that you and I take for granted if we are lucky enough to live in the cities. Thank you to the Prime Minister for what he did for Mabel, and thank you to the Prime Minister for putting this on an agenda. We will see on Friday what happens. And I warn you right now, any state premier who does not agree to this system, who does not facilitate this system and who does not have this system up and running by next week will be top of my agenda and top of the focus of everyone watching this program. This has nothing to do with Team Red, Team Blue, elections coming up, politicians we would or wouldn't vote for. This is their basic responsibility. They all take great value in telling people that they want to save lives and keep people safe. Well, part of keeping people safe is guaranteeing that they have the emotional support and the medical support so they can continue to live their life as Australians.